Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Weekly Review. This is episode 2. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me by my side is the RWT Deadman himself, the one, the only, Mr. Paul Morales. How are you, Paul?
Good evening, Mr. Michael Larkin. I am here. You're there. But I'm good.
Oh, dude, I got to say, another week in wrestling, man. A lot of stuff went on the interwebs, if you will, the social medias, the Raws, the SmackDowns, the what have yous. I look forward to covering the week here with you as we do in the Weekly Review. And you brought this to my attention. It's something that I also saw, and I figured we started as we can talk about this here. As you see on the screen here, folks, this is going to be a clip of Busted Open featuring Adam Copeland with Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray. Of course, Bully Ray and Edge, their history from TLC. Some of the best tag team matches with the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys. Now, I got to say, first and foremost, before I even play this, you will see, folks, how spot on Adam Copeland is with what he says in this clip. People should take note of this, not just because you and I are both very old school, but this is professional wrestling talk and wisdom at its finest. Are you ready to hear this?
Go for it, man. I'm ready.
Alrighty.
It's not about, the 5-star matches, which seems to be implanted in a lot of younger wrestlers' brains right now. How difficult it is to show them, hey, this is about storytelling now.
I don't even know what a 5-star match means. Like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? And if I'm being judged by people who have never taken a bump, then I don't care. You can't have match of the year every night. It's not sustainable. It's not possible. And I feel like the habit is to just do more moves to try and accomplish that. And somewhere in there, the story can get left behind. And to me, the story is always the most important. If you are able to hook the audience onto your character, and the way you do that is with these two things, right? So if you can hook them on that, they're going to care that much more about the moves I do. And I look at a guy like Killswitch who can do a moonsault off the top rope to the floor. After this, he's going to realize when to do that. And it's going to be at All In Wembley Stadium. And it's going to get that much bigger of a reaction because now they're starting to care about a character in a mask, by the way. And all he has to do is turn his head or shrug his shoulders a couple times. And I've been, telling him, dude, less is more. And that's part of the reason why with the whatever we're going to call it, the Copeland Open, I don't know. I want to work a bunch of young talent.
Can you please educate the wrestling fans as to why Adam Copeland would spend 5 minutes in a ring with Griff Garrison?
Because long after I'm gone, Griff Garrison will be there. If he can get in there and we have 5 minutes of time in there, I feel like he can learn more in that 5 minutes than he would in probably 200 matches with people of the same experience.
Well,
spot on. You couldn't clarify that any better. Now here's the thing. Adam said this one thing that just kind of stuck out to over anything else. He's talking about spots. Now, a lot of great five-star matches have a lot of spots in them. We're talking about Okada and Omega. I mean, you go through even more recently, him and Will Ospreay. How many spots? There's a little story there, but it's not like over a prolonged story. We're talking about him going back to New Japan, having an interaction with Will Ospreay. Now that they didn't have one before when Omega was there. Now I'm talking about him being in AEW, Will Ospreay coming here, them having the match that they had last year at Wrestle Kingdom, then Forbidden Door. Right? No, it was Wrestle Dream. No, it was Forbidden Door.
Wait, no, it was Wrestle Dream. But to add on to your point too is like you mentioned Omega and Okada. Like I could watch them in New Japan like do 65 minutes and that's great, but it's just at the same time, man. Like he mentioned with the eyes and just the subtleties, intricacies, and nuances, there's stuff that goes into it instead just maneuvers. And like he talked about with like Luchasaurus with the head tilt and what have you. You can also equate that to like when Kane, when he didn't talk, he just showed what he did with his mask with his emotions.
You were just going to hit the exact same point that I was going to make.
Yep.
Even when the Undertaker first came out, it was always that image of him just standing in the ring, just staring back at everybody that was was on the opposite side at Survivor Series, where he's just sitting there and he's just adjusting his gloves, and he's just sitting there and he looks at them. Then all of a sudden there was that first shot, the shot that actually made everybody just like, It's those little nuances inside of a character that can change the whole element of what people perceive.
No, you know what it is too. I've always been a fan of that myself because I mean, mind you, I can go to the Indies and like back in the day, going to Sports Plus and watching Ring of Honor and watching Bryan Danielson have these classic matches. But what was great about the matches is not just the maneuvers, but he can make you feel in the emotions. And I think a lot of people are so. We always hear the term modern wrestling. No, wrestling is professional wrestling. Pro wrestling is pro wrestling. But we're now more focused and oriented on just you got to move the moves, the spot, 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 spot. It's like not like slowing down. It's like video games when you're playing the video game. R1, L2, analog stick. You know which one you control. X square, triangle. You know what have you, circle. They're so invested more on just I got to get the best moves so I can get the best 5-star match. And I mean, if you want to please a 60-year-old man-child, if you will, with a dirty office in California, what are you doing? And I mean, the man himself, that we're talking about Dave Meltzer, the man himself may be historical as far as wrestling goes, but with how he views professional wrestling, I think that's where a lot of people want to imitate that because they want to get that perceived satisfaction, that perceived notion, that overall praise of a 5-star match. And at the end of the day, what the fuck does that mean? And I'm sure we'll get into that when we get to Tony Khan here in a second. At the end of the day, really, what the fuck does that mean? Much like Edge said, I don't know what a 5-star match is because it's very biased in the fact that Dave Meltzer can say this person has it, but someone like Kurt Angle, who is a freaking Olympic gold medalist, broken freaking neck, who is such a war of attrition with his technical prowess, like how is that not a 5-star match? Mind you, everything is subjective, but at the end of the day, do you want to make money and do you want to do the less is more and just really go out there and focus on what you need to focus on to entertain the crowd, evoke emotions, elicit reaction, or do you want to do 450 splashes in a row? Like, what do you want to do? Like, for real, there's so many different ideologies that go into it.
Yeah, but you look at, okay, we'll take the TLC batch, the very, very first one.
Yeah.
We knew that there were going to be ladder spots. We knew that there were going to be spots that had to do with the chairs, that also had to do with the tables. So, you know, those are the elements that actually are inserted into the match of Coach TLC.
Yeah.
And you watch them how they go about it. I mean, and it's almost like watching a ballet. I know a lot of arts people just don't really like that term, especially when it comes to, you know, something like wrestling or even like UFC. The people say that they don't understand on how that works because you still have to go around in the match, and this being very much choreographed, you know, you already know wrestling's fake, but it's not fake to the point to where, you know, these guys are not going out there and just barely even touching each other to where it's like, oh, hey, look, let me leave a little slap on your chest. No, that's welts. The welts show you that it's real. These spots, these people getting injured are real. It's not like just fabricated like that. The storylines, yes, but them going out there, they are still athletes that have to go out there and perform every night that they go out there and do this. That being said, you look at that match. That was a 5-star match. Why? Because they created it. They used the story. They used the match to tell the story of between the three tag teams. So that's the difference between what we see as far as us being old school, as what we perceive as to be a 5-star match, and then what people see now. It's spot, 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 spot. You know, let me do a slap, let me throw you out, let me do a bunch of flips out to the outside of the ring, off the top rope, through the ropes, you know, and it's spot, 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 spot. So for us, it's different on how we perceive. We want a storyline with it. Now I go back to Okada, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. There was no real story to it. Granted, they have history. That's different. But there was no story that kind of came from about it. It's like you just kind of put these two guys together and said, here, this is what you guys are going to do. You knew what you were getting when you got someone like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero in the ring. You knew what you were going to get. You were going to get fire from the minute the bell rang to the minute the bell stopped the match. You knew what you were going to get. Hands down. And it wasn't all spots. It was them telling a story. I'm going to go back a little bit further than that.
Okay.
You look at Hulk Hogan when he first started out wrestling, not in the WWF, But when he went over to Japan, if you look at the old footage of him in New Japan, or yeah, it is New Japan, and you look at the footage that he was doing. No, it wasn't New Japan. It was All Japan, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, when he was going against like Bob and he was doing the Axe Bomber and he was actually wrestling.
Yeah, and he was actually wrestling.
Right.
But that was him telling his story because he's a foreigner coming into someone else's country, and he's telling the story even through doing stuff that Vince would have never let him do in WWF. That's the difference. That's how I perceive as what a 5-star match could be, because I've seen Hulk Hogan do 5-star matches, not in WWF, but other places, just not WCW.
No, I'm right there with you. I can completely understand it. I mean, going back to the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys, I mean, the story of it of just wanting the War of Attrition to be the tag champs to innovate the tag team division. I mean, in the same year, they had the Triangle Ladder match and then the first TLC in 2000, then TLC 2 in 2001. So, I mean, like, those matches are timeless, like we talk about being the 5-star matches, but also at the same time, the story going into it. Like you mentioned, I'll equate, like you said, Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay. You know, they have history, but, you know, it's just like, oh, God, we're getting Omega and Ospreay again. Equate it to, like, when we had the Young Bucks go against Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. Like, the Elite, like how many times though have we seen the Young Bucks go against Adam Page or team with Adam Page? It's like, it's a lot of the same stuff, but there's no real story to the fact of, oh my God, they're going to put on this banger. It's all about, let's put on this banger and not tell the story. Like you mentioned with Hulk Hogan, when we're seeing him do drop kicks and the axe bombers and the leg drops and arm drags and the arm bars and all this stuff, and he's showing his craft in Japan, that's another side that we're getting to the Hulk Hogan layer, not the entertainment wise of what we see in the States, the guy who we've seen as Thunder Lips, the guy who we've seen in Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando, what have you. This is another guy who's just like, you know what, we're international, I'm the star. Like you mentioned, he's going to Japan and he's applying that strong style and really learning the craftsmanship and the overall honage of the Japan style. So, I mean,
okay, look at my hands. Look at my hands.
I see.
You see number 7?
I do.
Okay, that's how many moves Hulk Hogan had in WWF.
Yes.
7.
Okay.
7. Can you? I mean, we could literally sit here and name all 7 and just say that's all he had.
Yep. The big boot, the leg drop, the hulking up, the clothes.
Yeah, and then the clothesline, the lariat. He used to do a lariat in the beginning.
Yeah.
His fist shots were like very, very just nothing. He did a couple of kicks every now and then. Backhand chop. So it's literally
body slam.
It's literally 7 and a body slam. Thank you. And it's hulking up. See, it's literally 7 things that Hulk Hogan used to do on the nightly, and everybody was like, yeah, because that's just what people did. That's what people loved about him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can
it was the showmanship.
Yeah, you can say that with John Cena with the 5 moons of 2. You know, shoulder tackle, protoplex, 5 knuckle shuffle, FU 1 2 3.
Exactly.
That's how it is, folks. There's different things that are very much a perspective and subjective of what we get to see with pro wrestling. And then there's Tony Khan, who just fuck everything that you
Segue.
Fuck everything that you say and fuck everything that you do, because what I know is best. What do you know? And well, here we go. Oh God, let's read this here. So Tony Khan, he goes on to Twitter because WWE is doing Seth Rollins and Jinder Mahal for the world title. And we'll go back to the tweet that started it here. So if you go back here, folks, we're going to scroll up just a little bit. So the USA Network, out of everybody, Raj Giri points out these guys do have history. Seth Rollins defeated Jinder Mahal in the tournament finals to become the first NXT champion. Facts, that infamous image of Dusty Rhodes giving Seth Rollins the NXT championship. So there's some history there. And USA Network, I don't know who's running the USA Network Twitter, but what was the cage match rating, which we know who that's a shot at, and we know who loves them some cage match. So before we even get into these tweets, I got to ask you, what were your thoughts on the USA Network, Paul, saying that and replying back to that?
I have no idea who's running this thing, but you know what? They just kind of threw that out there. That was big time shade. That was a whole lot of big time shade at Tony. And I mean, that's one of those you look at it and you're just like, all right, I see you. Whoever's running it is either a big time, either watches everything that Tony does, or they're just a big time. They're just trying to throw shade at everybody. I mean, there's no bullshit on that one. Nothing.
No,
they didn't hold back.
But I have to ask you, here's what pisses me off about that. Like, Tony uses cage match rating for everything. Cage match ratings mean jack shit, but he applies that with the fan polls and fans votes and stuff. Like, you see cage match rating. Should that really matter in how you view your product and how you want to assess your product as far as putting on a damn good show, a cage match rating? Like, really?
No, because it matters about as much as the ratings do in AEW.
Right.
They don't.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, yes. Okay, you had this rating system to where you're okay. I grant it back to it being fake. But I mean, I understand. You're trying to build a company, but you're trying to build a company through trying to be legit and wanting to have a rating system, so people kind of follow it. And every week we were doing the exact same thing. Every Wednesday morning, we were out there trying to see what the ratings were before an AEW Dynamite show. So we were trying to see what was going on, see who was ranked up here, who was ranked down here. And most of the time we didn't get to, we got to see the people who were in the matches. And most of the time we didn't get to see the people who were in the matches and that we wanted to. But basically this rating system for AEW meant nothing. Exact same thing as the cage match ratings. They mean nothing.
So Tony Khan's reply to that tweet was the best of that. Before I get to the initial tweet that stoked this, he wrote, "A moral victory for USA is one win more than their world title challenger Jinder Mahal has in the past 364 days, because it's been literally a full year since he won a match. You really put AEW in our place, getting Jinder Mahal in a big match on your TV show. Do it more often." And the tweet before that was, "A double standard. Hook, 28-1 career record on winning streak, calls out the champ. A logical challenge sparks online outrage. Jinder has literally lost every single match he's in for the past year. Immediately gets title shot. Where is the rage? Hashtag AEW Dynamite tomorrow on TBS." So what were your thoughts on these tweets from Tony Khan before we even get to dive into some more of these?
Okay, hold on. Let me start with what I do know. Okay, so Tony kind of went along this line of where he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw shade back because USA Network threw shade at him. So I guess what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna throw shade back. Here's the thing. Rollins gave Jinder the opportunity.
Yes.
It was Rollins. It wasn't USA Network, or it wasn't Triple H. Rollins threw it out there and told him, I'm going to give you this title shot. Because, and back again, there is history there. There is some form of history between the two back in NXT. Back in when Rollins was the first AEW or NXT champion. AEW. Sorry, my bad.
NXT champion, yes.
NXT champion. He defeated Jinder. So there is a little history there. But I mean, that's going back to, if you really want to talk about long-term storytelling, that's really, really long-term storytelling. But I mean, it works. Because now, how are we going to perceive Jinder?
True.
Tony went out and did this. But now, you know what? I bet you anything come Monday, Jinder's going to get a big ass pop, because if you scroll through all the, everything that was being said, I've seen people actually compare Jinder to what happened to Mick Foley back when,
January 19th. Yep.
Yeah, WCW. You remember, Tony Schiavone was the one that announced it. Said, "Hey, guess what? So and so is going to win the world title win their world title. So there's no need to change the channel." Guess what? Everybody did.
They changed the channel. Mankind, who previously wrestled here as Cactus Jack, is going to win their world title. Oh, that should put some butts in the seats.
Yeah, that should put some butts in the seats. And guess what happened?
It did.
It did. It literally, that was the course that changed the Monday Night War, because it went from people watching WCW, switching over to USA Network to watch Mankind win his first ever world heavyweight title in WWE.
And here's my difference too as well. You have Hook out of mothballs challenging Samoa Joe, and people will be like, "Oh, but in TNA back in 2009 when Taz debuted, he was managing Samoa Joe when he had the tribal tattoo on his eye and it looked like a penis." But at the same time, I'm sorry, but that friggin' tattoo was ridiculous.
Oh man, great one.
Yes.
Great one.
Oh, but here's my thing, dude. It's just Hook was wrestling guys like Jungle Boy, Matt Menard, Wheeler Yuta, friggin' Cool Hand Ange and all these people that are like lower card to mid card. And then you have Jinder Mahal, who was a former WWE champion, beat Randy Orton in 2017 and actually had a run with the WWE championship. We mentioned like you mentioned, here's what's funny about it. You said what you said about long-term booking, Seth beating Jinder in 2012 to become the first ever NXT champion. You brought that up. And you know what person actually made fun of people who were saying stuff like that? Dumbass JD from New York is like, oh, well, you mean that's long-term booking? Kind of, yeah. If you look at the evolution of their careers, because at the time, Seth was this up-and-coming guy who they were pushing predominantly on the early stages of NXT. You had Jinder Mahal, who was just coming down there because at the time he was on Superstars and really not doing nothing. And then you're getting.
But you also have to remember is that, you know, Tyler Black was actually a ROH champion.
Right. Yes.
So he came from a company that was actually really, really great, you know, and it helped him. The fact that he was there, it helped him. Oh, he had Dusty Rhodes there. He had Triple H there. So he had guys there that believed in him. As to wonder why Jinder was there, because people believed in him.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing too. When you're like going from Superstars and you're actually getting a shot on this program that lets you wrestle and be yourself, they believed in Jinder Mahal, like much like they believed in like a Tyson Kidd to help out the talents, much like they believed in like a Trent Beretta at the time. So you were getting a lot of young guys going back there who they saw potential in to help grow and manifest to see where we are today. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the fact that Tony wanted to do all this, okay, I'll go through just to generalize everything that Tony went through.
Yes,
it's like literally Tony Schiavone putting over Mankind, telling everybody that this is going to happen. Okay, let's shock the world. What if Jinder wins on Monday?
Ooh, yeah.
What if Jinder takes the belt off of Rollins, but Damian Priest cashes in,
and he cashes.
I'm not trying to lessen the fact that of Jinder's win, because Jinder's win would be an upset, much like Mankind's. Yes, he had Stone Cold come in, hit the Rock with a stunner, you know, do what he did, had a little bit of interference, but you know what? The fact is that he upset him. So why couldn't Rollins come in and why couldn't Jinder come in and, I don't know, knock off Rollins?
Well, it's like the initial when he first run and he beat Randy Orton in 2017. Like he was mostly just like, you know, pre-show guy and really not doing much. And then, you know, the land of opportunity with SmackDown, he wins the number one contenders match and then he beats Orton for the title. Like that was an upset. I mean, you saw the reactions of people like, what the hell is going on? So it wouldn't be, you know, shocking if that he was to get another upset, because that's what Jinder does. And I'll say this right now. He looked great against The Rock. He looks great all in all. And he's a guy that's just a good hand to really put on a great stuff and great matches with. Now, mind you, he was doing the managing stuff at Indus Sheer, but the direction that they're going with Seth and Jinder, like I would like to see Jinder more do his stuff here and more just have Shanky and Veer maybe do their tag theme or maybe go back down to NXT. I mean, I would personally just like to see Jinder where he is right now instead of being the manager for Indus Sheer. What do you think?
Yeah, I would like to see him actually propelled. And you know what? Back to I'm going to give a whole lot of praise right now. I'm sorry, hold on, but I'm going to kind of go into this one. Yeah. But I want to say congratulations to our friend Mr. Amir Blackbane Costello, who became a doctor. And I'm so beyond proud of him. Jinder is his boy. Don't hinder the Jinder, because that's his boy. But I think this could put Jinder in a different category on the show altogether. This is literally making his career. And you would think winning the world title would have, you know, propelled him into that sphere, but unfortunately it didn't, because people weren't believing the fact that he was the champion, even for what was it, 9 months that he was champion.
Oh my God. So he won it at Backlash and then he lost it to AJ in England in November. So like a good maybe 5-6 months.
Okay. So we'll say 6 months. So 6 months altogether that he was champion, but you know, and it didn't propel him upward. It didn't keep him inside that top tier of superstars. You know, it dropped him down, you know, and he ended up with a knee injury, which he ended up having to have surgery on, I believe. And then, you know, that took him out of action for a while. But, you know, I'm sorry, but this is really, really bringing him back up into that tier. And if what Tony Khan is basically doing is you're giving him a platform. You're giving everybody a platform that's now going to look at Jinder Mahal as a babyface.
Agreed wholeheartedly. And that also brings me to the other point before we get back to the Twitter storm here. I got to say to you, sir, Samoa Joe and Hook, because we talk about the overall hype now for Seth and Jinder. Are you looking forward to Samoa Joe and Hook for the AEW World title?
Yeah, because, okay, so Samoa Joe,
Yeah.
in the press conference after he won the title, he told everybody, bring them all on. I don't care who it is. I don't care what your name is. You can come over here and get that ass whooping that you're going to get from me. And he point blank. So the fact that Hook is going to be involved in this match, it doesn't surprise me. Hell, I'm happy that back to long-term storytelling. That's Taz's son. You know, him and Samoa Joe had a history. So this is kind of like one of those full circle moments, you know. And I'm waiting for this one. I really, really want to see them go out there and beat the living shit out of each other. That's just me.
I think with the presentation of Hook and him being the FTW champion and what he's done, I mean, they've really, propelled him with what he did at All In, and just really getting that reaction that he did in Wembley, and really just being the guy that he is, only having one loss and one blemish on his record. And I'll equate to what you said about Samoa Joe taking him on. For those that remember in 2005, like when he won the X Division title and he was like taking on all comers, like he was going against.
He took on everybody.
He went on AJ, Christopher Daniels, everybody. That's what it reminds me of, like his X Division run in TNA, but now propelled with the World Heavyweight Championship. I love the Samoa Joe. And I mean, Samoa Joe, as he gets older, what have you, he's still that Samoa Joe that I still enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Much like we all enjoy. So I'm looking forward to seeing the pound and ground, just what they do next week in both respective titles.
I do have one thing. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If somebody else other than Samoa Joe had won the world title from MJF, do you think it would have lowered the title, or do you think that Samoa Joe having it has actually kept it about the same level of excitement as prestige that MJF had it at?
To be completely honest with you, I think it's the same prestige, just because when he dropped down that Ring of Honor World Television Championship and he's like, no, I want to go for this, it has the sights on it, just because Samoa Joe was white hot. Samoa Joe is the wrecking machine that he is, and it made sense for him to, because MJF was a bit of a scarred to go in there, but at the same time, he just went out there and just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that he's hurt, but I'm also going to go out there and win that World Championship, because that's what it's about at the end of the day. So it's the Samoa Joe bravado and the overall charisma and the overall savageness that he brings. I think that adds to what we're seeing now with his title reign.
That's exactly you're spot on. Everything that you just said was exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly, man. But yeah, back to the Twitter storm here. So we'll do this one because Eric Bischoff is in this one a lot. So, this tweet right here was, Tony forgets that he literally gave Abaddon a title shot after being off AEW TV for over a year, the same exact situation as Jinder. And Eric Bischoff wrote, hey, Tony Khan, is this true or is it a bot? And Tony Khan responded with, no, Eric Bischoff, not true at all. Abaddon returned to AEW and they won a 4-way match on TNT against other great wrestlers to earn a title shot, which is completely different than someone going a full year losing every match they're in, plus getting a title shot without a single win. Reading would be your friend, Eric. Oh my goodness. We'll start with that one. Now
you keep running through a lot of what people were talking about. They had a whole slew of people that were just that knew of all the times that something had happened, knew of all the times that somebody who was world champion ended up giving somebody else another opportunity who hadn't won anything. Heath Slater ended up getting an Intercontinental title shot and he wasn't anybody. Look at everybody that John Cena, when he was doing his US title run, he didn't take it as a demotion. You know what? He elevated it up to what it was. He elevated that thing up and gave everybody an opportunity to wrestle for that title. He didn't care who came out. His John Cena challenge for the United States Championship challenge. Everybody came out. It didn't matter what your record was. It didn't matter if you hadn't won in a week, a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year. He just wanted to wrestle somebody. And that's exactly what he did. He elevated everybody that was on there. He gave Sami Zayn a chance. He gave Kevin Owens a chance. The same Kevin Owens who ended up defeating him for that title.
Mm-hmm.
That's Rollins. But the thing is that he elevated that title.
Yeah, that was the slew of Twitter beefs and everything that went into it. I mean, Eric Bischoff calling him a clown, Tony Khan calling him a has-been. There was so much that went into that. It was just a crazy shitstorm of Twitter, and we got to see a lot of the responses there.
I'm thinking, you know what? And in all honesty, I'm thinking that moment that Eric Bischoff ended up showing up on AEW, something had to have happened why he wasn't called back for him. Because there's no way that they're just all of a sudden just going to have this Twitter beef for nothing.
My thing, too, is I look at it like this. Eric has said on his show that he tried to help Tony because Tony is just in over his head. And all he was thinking about was kind of like what Eric did back in the 90s. We have to beat WWE. WWE sucks. Let's run them out of business. With Tony Khan, it's WWE sucks. We're going to show them why we're the alternative and why we are AEW. And I mean, Dax chimed in of the FTR, the rival, and he wrote, "This is you." And it was Eric Bischoff challenging Vince McMahon to that match at Spring Stampede back in 98. And I mean, Eric Bischoff quoted and responded back to that with like, okay, here's the difference. Tony Khan will go on social media and do it, but I actually went head on to Vince McMahon and I didn't cry on social media or cry to the dirt sheets, which also brings up the other side of the coin is if this was in the 90s, right, and the Monday Night Wars and we had social media, could you see Eric Bischoff doing what Tony Khan was doing on Twitter, much like that if we had social media in the 90s?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't see Eric Bischoff jumping on we'll say AOL at the time. I mean, we didn't see, and mind you, AOL was back then. AOL and Yahoo, they had Yahoo chat rooms back then. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like you didn't see Tony Khan. You didn't see Eric Bischoff jumping on inside chat rooms and saying, "Well, hey, guess what? I could beat Vince McMahon's ass any point in time. Hey, I challenge him to do this. Hey, I challenge him to do that. Hey, I'll challenge any of their guys to go against my guys." No, it wasn't like that. So I don't see Eric Bischoff, even if Twitter was a thing back then. I don't see Eric Bischoff doing that. I think a lot of what they did, a lot of the verbal back and forth was literally on TV. It wasn't something that they needed to do in the background. They didn't need reporters and everybody else running back and forth, running rickshaw back and forth between companies just to get a wild hair up each other's ass. It's like, guess what? I can put on a show better than you can. And it's like, that's our beef. That's our war. Our war is me putting on a better show than you put on.
Like the North of Scope when they invaded and they had the tank when WCW was right there and they went there. Like, prime example, head to head there. And I mean, like, they did their stuff with WCW. Like, I mean, who remembers the Nacho Man and all that stuff? The Huckster back in 95. The Huckster making fun of Ted Turner. And I mean, like, WWE had the Ultimate Warrior, WCW.
Billionaire Ted.
Like
Billionaire Ted.
Yeah. And you had the Ultimate Warrior in the WWF. WCW had the Renegade, which was like an Ultimate Warrior character. So they did a lot of stuff to like one up each other. Like you mentioned, I don't think social media would have been needed at the time because it was a war. Literally, it was a legit war, and that's what we got in the Monday Night Wars. And Tony Khan, I will say this: you got to take. We're gonna end this part of the Tony Khan social media.
Stay off the cocaine.
Yes, the hoopla. Stay off the cocaine, number one. And number two, somebody take his social media away from him.
Take it off of his phone, man. I mean, this man just needs to stay off of just off of Twitter at least. Just stop trying to put on a good show. Mm-hmm. Do good storylines. Now I'm not against AEW. I love the product. I love a lot of the wrestlers that are there. But if you have a great creative team and you guys are putting out great storylines and you guys are utilizing all the people that you have there, with as much time as you have to show them, put them on screen, do something good that way, instead of trying to sit here and trying to have some Twitter beef with the other company. Run yours the way you guys had intended to run it, the way the Young Bucks, the way Kenny Omega, and the way Cody Rhodes had wanted them to run it. Run it that way. Run it the best way you can to have great storylines and put on a good product, and not worry about what WWE is doing.
Amen to that. And here's the thing. People ask, why doesn't Tony have a PR guy? I'm like, he does have a PR guy. He has Adam Hopkins, who was with the WWE for 25 years, who can help with social media and media as in general. But yeah, have Adam Hopkins run your social media, Tony. Have Adam run the social media so we don't see this.
Have Adam Copeland do it for you. Look, have Adam Ant do it for you. I don't care. Just have somebody else do it for you. Stop trying to have this fucking Twitter beef with everybody. Dude, just run your fucking company. That's all it has to be.
As they should. And speaking of companies, we now move over to the WWE side of things. Before we get to Punk and McIntyre, I want to touch base with you because every time we do show prep, and I love doing show prep with you, Paul, you made a funny note. We have to mention this on air just because I love your verbiage and how you said this. Oba fucking Femi wins the NXT North American Championship. Oba Femi, the breakout star, the breakout tournament winner, beating Riley Osborne. He goes in there. Dragon Lee beats Lexis King. Dragon Lee beats Lexis.
Dragon Lee. You know what? I didn't know that they actually got a contract. Is this the first year that they've done that?
No, they've done this for a while. Carmelo Hayes won the breakout tournament. Oh, you know who won one? Remember ACH? Friggin' Jordan Miles.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. That's what kind of confused me. The fact that he came out, he handed the referee a contract, and I'm like, wait a second. Hold on. We got a Money in the Bank thing going on, or is it just me? Like, I literally either I brain farted or I had no idea what the fuck was going on, because I sat there and I'm like, okay, well, is he gonna get a title shot? And he literally jumped in the ring. They rang the bell, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is happening.
Well, that's what they're doing with Lola Vice. Like, when is she gonna go after Lyra Valkyria and stuff? Like,
she'll go after her on her own time. I mean, now if you would have did them all both on the same night, that would have been pretty much. That would have sucked. But I think maybe the next pay-per-view, you never know.
Well, that's my thing too, because Dragon Lee and Lexis King, Brian Pillman Jr., have this amazing match, and then Dragon Lee's all beat up. Here comes Obafemi. Dragon Lee gets like a tornado DDT and a little offense, but then Obafemi hits this big ass sit out power bomb for the three, and Obafemi becomes the youngest North American champion ever, just at 22 years old. The man looks great. The man is built. He's in great shape. So Obafemi, North American champion.
That man is stacked. That man. Big meaty man slapping meat. I tell you what, that's a big meaty man right there. So he's the first NIL athlete to actually win a title.
Yep.
That's the amazing part. And that's a good stepping stone for this man. And he looks jacked. He looks like, he's a big guy, big Nigerian guy. And you know what? Shout out to him, man, because he did the damn thing. And you know what? He took every opportunity to do it, and congratulations to him, man. I'm Oba fucking Femi. I tell you what.
Oba fucking Femi, yes. And speaking of other fucking man, God effing damn it, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre segment. These two, it was very reminiscent when they're both sitting on the corner. I felt CM Punk MJF vibes just from that little side of things, from the subtleties there. Drew McIntyre's going off. He's saying, what if I leave for 9 years and then come back? And the reaction I get, out because CM Punk. CM Punk's talking about, I'm not the devil, I'm not Satan, but I can be Satan himself if you push me. Like, I love that. He's not a demon, but if you push me, I can be that demon. I can be Satan himself. And Drew McIntyre pretty much saying what he said during the Randy Orton feud in 2020, when I needed somebody to talk to, I needed somebody to help me. Nobody was there for me. I like what they're doing here. For me, it makes me want to see more of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. I dig it. You know what I'm saying? So what were your thoughts on this whole promo segment? Because both of them really went tit for tat with this, and they both look strong coming out of it.
It was the exchange hand down. That's what drew me in. It was the fact that they actually verbally drew me in. That's what you want from a promo. You want to be able to throw pot shots at each other, or even come out, even as individuals. You come out, you put a promo on, you want to grab people and draw them in. That's exactly what these two did with everything. Shout out to CM Punk, because CM Punk threw that devil reference in there, and I'm just like, all right, I see you.
Yep.
I see you. I see you. I knew what you was doing. And he could be the complete asshole that he was in AEW. And if he has turned over this new leaf being in WWE, shout out to Triple H for, giving this man, what he needed. This is his breath of fresh air. And I thought when he first got to AEW, that was his breath of fresh air because everybody wanted him back. No, this took that to another level because he looks like he's just excited. His excitement level to feud with guys that he knows, guys that he's known throughout his career. Drew McIntyre was just barely a kid when last time CM Punk was there. So the fact that CM Punk is literally wanting to do this with him, that says so much about what Phil wants to do.
Oh, agreed. I mean, if you do this match in Perth, I'm happy with it. You know what I'm saying? Or you do this match wherever. This is what I like about it too, as well, is just because, like you mentioned, like he looks happy, he looks healthy, and he's excited. You know what I'm saying? I think with everything that went down in AEW, it's like, okay, I'm with a lot of guys that think they know everything and that don't want to listen. And I could equate this to, like, you saw him though with those photos in NXT with Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. And I think he sees the locker room NXT, like, these people will actually listen to me and actually want to listen to what I have to say. I think it's a case of, like, he knows the environment. Triple H and him mended fences. Shawn Michaels is there. I think he wants to not only work, but he wants to teach, like, the younger generation, work with his people, but also at the same time, make that money, as he said, make that money, do business the right way. And so I think this new stance, this new lease on life that CM Punk has, especially the man's now in what is like early to mid 40s. So life's too short to have all these grudges. So he's out there just living and putting on a damn good show.
Yeah, but he's in a place in his life to where he wants to go down to the PC and be with these people.
Right.
He wants to be able to do that. That's something you got wrestlers that are down there that are sponges. They're willing to listen to people. That's probably why they do so well with Shawn. That's probably why they do so well with Paul, because they hear everything that they're telling them. Even with the coaches that are there, they hear everything. They want to learn. They're absorbing everything. So the fact that he has all this stuff with a Roxanne Perez, with a Cora Jade who he has history with because she was one of his biggest fans. So go through her social media and you'll see a lot of the pictures that she's posted when she was younger, when she was a 14-year-old girl, and she met CM Punk and her face looked like it was like brighter than the light that's shining on me now,
Mm-hmm. It's like I equate it to when AJ Lee, there's some Punk reference here, when AJ Lee met Lita back in 2001 and how she was crying and so lit up with joy. You make a great point about people who are just sponges. Like, it's funny to me because Grayson Waller said in an interview, it's like when Nigel McGuinness was there, right? Like, people were just like, oh, Nigel McGuinness, the announcer, NXT UK. No, it's like, no, like Grayson Waller and Andre Chase were going over to learn from Nigel McGuinness. Like, this is Nigel McGuinness, Ring of Honor Nigel McGuinness, TNA Nigel McGuinness. Like, people just want to learn, absorb, sponges, and we need more of that. Like, I love that, man, because that's what you need. You always adapt and grow, not just in whatever endeavor, but just life in itself. I think you need to learn, because that's the beautiful thing about wrestling. You never stop learning.
Yeah, you never stop. It's a process. It's a progression to get better. So it's like, if you can take 5-10 minutes of someone else's time, from someone who's been there, who's a veteran, and absorb it. Back to what Adam said. He can spend 5 minutes in the ring with Grayson, and and have 5 minutes in the match with him, and he can learn more in that 5 minutes than he can having 200 matches with a bunch of other people. And that's exactly what Adam was talking about. It's a learning process. You can get these young people, bring them in. it may not have been the exact same way. Adam's way may not be the exact same way as, as Phil's was. So the fact that, Adam wants to go in there and he wants to grab a lot of these young talent that are, willing to be like, hey, look, teach me something, that they want to absorb it. Back to kill switch, less is more. I can teach you that. This is what you could do at this time. Look at when you get to All In and Wembley, do the backflip, do it then, and it'll be so much different than what you doing it weekly.
Agreed. And speaking of somebody doing it weekly, and we mentioned the term veteran here, we now move back to AEW, as we saw in AEW this week. Sting and Darby Allin against the Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs. Sting with that insane Scorpion death drop through the table on Powerhouse Hobbs. Oh my goodness. Head on concrete, dude. That was brutal.
Ooh. I looked like it. That little, I felt it. I felt it as soon as he landed, and you see him just like, oh.
Yep.
I'm like, great camera view, but that should have been like one of those, like, let me hit it from the side, not from the top, because that looked like that dropped, like he smacked it pretty hard. But you know what? Hey, credit to Sting for getting up and just wanting to go out there and be the performer that he is, and wanted to finish the match.
And he got up, and Tony Schiavone was in the ring. And he was asking him about Revolution in Greensboro, North Carolina. And Sting, who would your opponent want to be? And a lot of people are chanting for Darby. They wanted to see the teacher and the student. But then all of a sudden we hear super kick pate. And here comes Matt and Nick Jackson with their porn stashes, staring down Darby Allin and Sting. And it looks like at Revolution, we are going to get in Sting's final match, a tag match with Sting and Darby Allin against the Young Bucks, which has caused a divide on social media because a lot of people wanted a one-on-one. But hey, folks, I mean, Sting wanted to wrestle him. Like, if that's who he wants to wrestle in his final match, that's his choice. So what were your thoughts on now we're going to get Sting and Darby against the Bucks?
Come on, this is Steve's choice. Steve wanted fucking the Young Bucks. Steve wanted Matt and Nick Jackson. You give Steve what he wants. Steve, that's who he wanted. Darby is willing to be there with him and go out in this blaze of glory, whichever way he wants to, but give Sting his props, man. He chose the Bucks. That's his choice. I'm pretty sure I would have been, another Edge and Christian thing. That probably would have been another thought, but he wrestled with alongside Adam Copeland. So he wrestled in the ring with Christian. So that happened. So Full Gear, that was their swan song. I was there in LA. I got to see it all, and it was a beautiful send off. The crowd, the fact that we were all chanted for him and we were all happy to see him off. And that was literally the last match I'm gonna get to see Sting live. So that one tugged at my heartstrings. Not gonna lie, I cried. So, but yeah, I mean, you give the man what he wants. This is his retirement. This ain't anybody else's. This is his retirement.
And I think if you're going to work with someone, and I mean, Young Bucks also have a history of, people say what they want about their style, but I can say as long as I watched the Young Bucks, even since their Generation Me days in TNA, they've never hurt anybody. They are safe they do a lot of the high octane aerial assault, but they're safe and they can take care of Sting. So I think so I think that's a perfect choice for him to have the tag match number one, because Sting has even said if you do a one-on-one, he doesn't feel like he would be confident enough to carry it. So, you have Darby there to take all these crazy spots, and you have the Young Bucks to do the spots, but also protect the veteran. I think it's a win-win combination for everyone involved.
I honestly think if Cody was there, he probably would have wanted it with Cody.
Oh, that would have been great.
Because Cody would have been safe with him. And and the fact that the VPs were Matt and Nick. So I know that probably would have been something Sting would have wanted, but Matt and Nick are very safe in that ring, and Darby will do all his crazy stuff, but Sting will probably do some crazy shit too. But don't get me wrong, you already know Sting's gonna do something crazy, probably jump off the fucking top rope for all we know, probably fly through it, do a coffin drop off onto a table.
When people saw him doing like the crazy stuff and jumping from balconies, I'm like, I remember him and Samoa Joe at Bound for Glory 08 when he's jumping off the freaking balcony in the friggin' stadium and the friggin' arena. Like, he's known to do this, and that's why Sting is the icon that he is. And speaking of the icons, if you will, I mean, people will say what they will about this gentleman as well. This is our final topic for the day, Mr. Paul Morales. As we all saw around Christmas break, the shocker, one of the last Vince McMahon guys is gone. Kevin Dunn has left the WWE. He didn't want to be told what to do. He's a Vince McMahon guy, and, well, they booted him the fuck out of there. And I will say this, no matter what you say about Kevin Dunn, some of the best production side of things made everything look great to what we saw with the WWE aura. And now the person that is taking his spot is Lee Fitting from ESPN. And we'll start with Lee Fitting because there was another one we'll get to AEW. But what were your thoughts on now Kevin Dunn is gone after many and many years of being with the WWE, and now Lee Fitting from ESPN is taking his place?
You know what? I'm really, really surprised the fact that Kevin Dunn lasted as long as he did after Triple H, after Triple H took over, and after Vince left. Well, he hasn't really left. Well, on a technicality, he hasn't really left. He's just not on. Has nothing to do with the production. Has nothing to do with creative. Basically, he's the silent guy that's sitting in the back row, just kind of looking over there, knowing that he's making money. That's what Vince is. That's who Vince is. John Laurinaitis is gone.
Yep.
Name some guys. I mean, Kevin Dunn was literally the last of the Mohicans that he had. Had his yes men.
Right.
That was the term I was looking for. The last of his yes men.
I mean, I mentioned a name here, Paul, not to cut you off, but like earlier, Adam Hopkins. Adam Hopkins was a Vince hire back in 1997, 1998. I mean, Jim Ross, who was in talent relations, he's gone. John Laurinaitis is gone. Now Kevin Dunn is gone. I think the only one that's still really there is Bruce. Like, Bruce Pritchard was originally a Vince McMahon hire, and now he's still there doing the thing. So I think the only one really left is Bruce Pritchard. Yeah,
but I think Bruce Pritchard is actually the exception to the rule, because Bruce Pritchard may have been a yes man for Vince.
Yeah.
But for all the times that he wanted to go against Vince and Vince wouldn't listen to him.
Yeah.
I think that shows more loyalty to the product rather than to Vince. That's what the difference is between having Bruce Pritchard on staff than having a Kevin Dunn or a John Laurinaitis. You know, or even back then when it was Jim Ross was there, and Jerry Briscoe and Pat Patterson, when they were all his yes men. And it wasn't just what was in front of the camera, because this is the exact same thing that they were doing behind the camera. You know, they were doing it in Gorilla. They were doing it backstage. They were all his yes men. Yes, Vince. Yes, Vince. Yes, that's a good idea, Vince. Yeah, you should run with that. Yeah, you should do this. Yes, you should do that. Why? Because they're fucking getting paid. That's why. That's what Vince paid them for. That's what Vince had them there for, was because they were his yes men. Kevin Dunn did run the production side of everything, and yes, he did run it great, as you know, throughout the years. This is the guy that started with Vince back in the 80s. You know, back when Vince bought the company. That's how long Kevin Dunn has been there. You know, and he grew up throughout WWF into WWE through the production side of everything, from the premiere of SmackDown, you know, all the way to moving it from one channel to another, from one station to another, and whatnot. Kevin Dunn has been there from the beginning. So the fact that he's gone, and Triple H and Endeavor, Ari and the other Khan. Yeah, the other Khan. Nick, you know, they brought in Lee, and you know what? We're just gonna see what he has. But I mean, if the production of a lot of the production team that was there prior, you know, through Kevin Dunn are still there, then I don't see it changing much, aside from maybe getting different camera angles, maybe doing a little bit more of the production, producing better shows for them. But aside from that, if a lot of the other people are still there, then I don't see it changing much.
Agreed wholeheartedly.
But I think, and I have to say this, because Paul wanted somebody that was different.
Yeah,
he wanted to change. He wanted, you know, through everything. I mean, no matter if it was sports, you know, you know, fucking Bill Belichick just fucking left the Patriots.
Yep.
Bill Belichick, after 24 years and 6 Super Bowl titles and taking him to 10 Super Bowls, you know, is now gone, you know, from New England. So the fact that they are bringing in, but they hired within. Now, granted, Triple H didn't hire within, you know, he went out and got somebody else, but still, change can always can be for a good thing. And if Lee doesn't work out, guess what? They'll go back and find somebody else. So
that's how I feel. I always feel like the time will tell side of things. And I mean, it's a change is a part of life. Some things can be good, some things will be bad. But I think it's one of those things. It's like, let's see where they go. And I mean, like going from Kevin Dunn to now a Lee Fitting. I mean, the guy has history with ESPN. So I mean, there's a lot of good things that go into his resume. So let's see how that really transforms and transmorphifies.
yeah, and his resume is extensive because he has College Game Day. He did Monday Night Football. You know, he did Baseball Tonight for ESPN. You know, he produced shows for ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. So he has a history. He has a good. Obviously, they weren't just going to hire just, you know, Tom, Dick, and Harry off the fucking street. So,
right.
You know, they picked somebody that they knew and they hired within. Literally, I mean, if you really want to look at it, they have a working relationship with ESPN. So there you go.
Transform and transmogrify, my friends. And then we go to the AEW side of things with Kosha Irby, who is a former WWE regional director of live events, is now with AEW, which, wow, that is a big signing and a big get for them.
You know what? I go back to what I had said before. You know, these were people that were under Vince and people that now it wasn't that they were yes men to at least not him. It wasn't like he was a yes man. It's just that, you know, they wanted to go a different direction, and he still had the pedigree, you know, still had the experience. So why not go to somewhere where your services will still be, you know, utilized? You know, even if he would have ended up at Impact or TNA, I'm sorry. Gotta scratch that out of my head now because it's no longer Impact.
Yeah, we can't go Impact.
Shout out to Impact. Now I'm just gonna throw this out there. Shout out to Impact for the new titles. Those things are fucking beautiful.
Oh my goodness. And I think on their end too, like you mentioned, like with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling getting that rebranding or going back to the original name, it feels like when you were watching them on Fox Sports Net or when you were on Spike TV, it gives you that feel of just what TNA really resembles and really symbolizes and signifies. And yeah, we saw Alex Shelley, we saw Chris Sabin, all of them getting their amazing, beautiful titles, Trinity as well. Like, oh my goodness, dude, like I'm excited for this reboot. Like, this is an exciting time for them just because, like, I've been watching since 2004. You've been watching for many, many years, friends, the good, bad, and the ugly. Like, TNA just has that rejuvency that it really needed.
This is their shot in the arm. This is what they needed. I mean, and they went through that dry spell from like 2017, 2016, 2017, 2018, all the way up until maybe about, I'd say, shortly after the pandemic. I mean, you could really look at that as a 5-year span to where they were just getting, you know, balled out, especially with the global force bullshit that they went through too. So, you know, you look at these beautiful titles that they have now, it's like everybody is reborn. You know, Scott D'Amore was just out there, you know, he looked like he had a shot in the arm too. It looked like he was just like, I'm ready for this. I'm giving you these titles, and the glimmer in his eye is like, I'm ready for this next chapter. So 2024, new year for TNA. Welcome back.
Welcome back, TNA. And what a great time to be a professional wrestling fan. And just what a great time in all, just for professional wrestling. I can't say it enough. And each and every week, Paul Morales and I will be talking about the ins and outs of professional wrestling and what goes on in the weekly review. And this will close out episode 2. There we go. It rhymes. And Paul, like I said, man, I love always doing these shows with you now. This is going to be so much fun doing the damn thing each and every week. And before we close this out, as always, let us know where we can follow you on the social media front. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, well, of course, you can follow me on X, of course, Twitter, X, whatever the fuck
you want to call it. Yeah,
you know, whatever the hell you want to call it. You can follow me at RWT_Deadman. You could also follow the RWT Facebook page, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Michael Larkin will put that in a link down below. So just don't look for me at no strip club, because I ain't gonna be there. Okay, maybe on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because they have some pretty good shrimp on that, them nights. Know what I'm saying?
I know
Some pretty good shrimp, has some pretty good lobster. Breakfast buffet is actually really, really good. I'm telling you what, over at the girls down the street. You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Jay-Z over here. Girls,
Girls,
I do adore. All righty. Now, the links will be in the description. And like we mentioned earlier, shout out and congratulations to Dr. Amir Costello. Shout out to our boy, the Kingpin. Links will be in the description.
My brother. Shout out to you.
Hell yes. And check out RWT on the Facebook group. Come on and join. You can check out yours truly here, SM Show 1 or MCL92, M Larkin MB, Larkin _92 on the Instagram front, StephenMikeShow.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can see the weekly review, Deep to the Heart of Wrestling with our boy Robert Davis and Nicola McDonald. You can check out the Pop Culture History Podcast, Shooting the Breeze, the Stephen Mike Show, On the Mic with Mike. We have a plethora, a accoutrement, if you will, of content on the YouTube channel. It's Mike Larkin.
He said a charcuterie board. That's what he said, a charcuterie board.
I love you, man. We are already at 722 subscribers. Let's keep getting them up. Let's get it up to 1,000. I love y'all that support us, and I love each and every one of you that have been on this ride with me. And I got all people like Paul and amazing talent and amazing people on these amazing shows on the YouTube channel. So subscribe. Thank you. Lingerie Fighting Championships as well for all your needs. I know, Paul, you love you some LFC. Thank you for your support as well with the booties and these amazing women.
Yeah, because they rocking everywhere. That's why.
All righty. Get it together and bring it back to me. And you can get back to us next week.
They could back that ass up for all I care. You know what I'm saying?
You're a fine motherfucker. Won't you back that ass up? We'll see you. We'll see you next week for episode 3 of the weekly review. For the RWT Deadman Paul Morales, my name is Mike Larkin, and we'll see you next week.
Fuck you, Moses Marquez.